Hey there, this is Phil. Welcome to my computer. Ooh, it's pretty, isn't it? I'm going to talk to you a little bit about fixing USB devices that aren't functioning for you properly. This is particularly common with printers, removable storage devices like thumb drives and external hard drives, media devices like cameras, MP3 players, and telephones, and certainly other devices are affected by this. Maybe you bought a brand new mouse or keyboard that's not working when you plug it in. This trick isn't going to fix every issue. There are some times when a USB device just isn't working anymore, or a USB port is broken, or what have you. But in about 70% of the cases, uninstalling and reinstalling the USB controllers in the device manager is going to fix your problem. Before you even start, there are some symptoms that you want to look for, and the more of them you have, the more likely it is that this is going to fix your problem. The first thing, of course, is that the device you're using works on other computers and just doesn't, for whatever reason, work on the computer you're trying to get it to. Um, Another example is if you have existing USB devices that have been attached to the computer for a long time, like your mouse and keyboard that have been there forever and they still work fine, but other devices don't when you plug them in. If you move a device that is currently plugged in, like your mouse or keyboard that's been there forever, to another port and it doesn't work when you do that, that's an indicator that this is going to fix your problem. And if you get a message that tells you that the device is recognized but the driver couldn't be loaded properly, especially with devices that have worked fine on the computer before, that's also an indicator. If you have a lot of those, this is almost guaranteed to fix your problem. Now, if you're doing this on a computer that has a PS2 mouse or a laptop that has a touchpad, this is a super easy, no fuss fix. Boom, you're done in 5 seconds. However, if you're using a USB mouse on a desktop computer, you're probably also going to want to get a piece of paper because as we start deleting these USB ports from the computer, your mouse is sooner or later going to stop working and you're going to need to write a couple things down. Alright, the first thing you're going to want to do is close out any programs that you're running because since it's likely we're going to have to restart the computer without a working mouse and keyboard, you don't want any of these programs to stop the computer from shutting down and force us to have to crash the system to get it back up. So, if you're listening to some really awful 80s music, you might want to close that. If you've been checking out whatever the new hotness is going on in World of Warcraft, you want to close that out. Maybe you're trying to buy some kind of a Primo Kiss lunchbox. You probably want to close that out. Anything you have running in your taskbar, you want to close out. I can't close these, or suddenly I'll stop recording, but you get the idea. The next thing you want to do is go into the device manager, and I'll show you how to do that real quick under Windows XP. You can either right click on the My Computer icon, and then click on Properties, and that's going to bring up the System Properties box. You can also go into the Start menu, go to Control Panel, and double click on the System icon, which will bring the same box up. Then you want to click on the Hardware tab, and then on Device Manager. This list is going to show you every piece of hardware that your computer can recognize as being attached to it. To get there under Windows Vista and Windows 7, you go to the Start menu, go to Control Panel, and the Device Manager is listed right here. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and open up the Device Manager, and I'll show you what you're looking for. There's a section near the bottom that's labeled Universal Serial Bus Controllers, and that's where we want to be. If you have an older computer with not a lot of USB ports, there's not going to be a whole ton of stuff in here. If you have a newer computer, you may see all kinds of stuff in here. But you really don't have to worry about anything except for the ones that are labeled USB host controller. They may not be this exact model, but they will have those keywords in there. Now, before we go any farther, a word of caution. If your operating system is compromised or your USB host controller driver is corrupted or missing, you may have a problem scanning to get these devices back. In the former case, you may really need to reinstall your operating system to get everything working again. In the latter case, the good news is you've probably found the issue, but the bad news is if you delete the host controller that's controlling your mouse, you may have a hard time reinstalling the drivers. So, it's probably a good idea to just delete one of these and then try to rescan for it to see if the computer finds it. If scanning for the hardware doesn't find the USB host controller and hopefully your mouse is still working, you'll want to go to the manufacturer's website for either your computer or your motherboard if you built it yourself and find the chipset driver to reinstall it. Alright, let's give this a test run. We'll go here to our device manager and go to the host controller, and you're going to right click on it and choose to uninstall it. Now under Vista and 7, you have the option to delete the driver, but you really don't want to do that. Under Windows XP, this box won't even be here. Now, making sure this box is unchecked, go ahead and click OK, and it will delete that item from our list. Now, to test and make sure that it's going to come back, you want to go up here to Action and choose Scan for Hardware Changes. It's going to then find that controller we deleted and reattach the driver to it. Now that we know everything's going to reinstall properly, we can go about deleting the rest of these. Now, if you look carefully, you'll see at the end here there are some numbers, and these are how you keep track of which one of these is which. So as you start deleting them, if your mouse stops working, what you're going to want to do is write down the numbers of the ones you didn't delete so that you can try and delete them the second time around. So let's go ahead and start. We'll uninstall this one, and we'll uninstall the next one. And I recommend going from the top to the bottom. That way, if you're too lazy to write it down or you don't have access to a pen and paper, when you find the one finally that deletes your mouse, you can restart the computer and then start deleting them from the bottom until your mouse goes away again. So we'll delete this one too, and we'll pretend that the mouse has stopped working. Uh-oh, the mouse doesn't work anymore. Now what you'll want to do is write down the numbers that you have left, like I said, if you can. If you can't, again, you'll start from the bottom when you do this again. You're going to want to press, not hold, the power button on the front of your computer, and that will cause your computer to actually restart properly, or at least shut down properly. When the computer restarts, it's going to automatically reinstall the drivers for the controllers you were able to delete, and then you can start over again from the bottom or with the numbers that you wrote down. If you're not using a USB mouse and you were able to delete all of these controllers, what you can do next is just, again, simply go to Action, choose Scan for Hardware Changes, and it will go ahead and reinstall all that stuff for you. And I'll do it again. And that is that. That should fix most problems with malfunctioning USB devices.